Welcome back to Happenings on the Hill. I have with me Elizabeth Williams, our Director of Finance here at Roanoke Catholic, to answer a couple of questions that I've had and probably you've been wondering about as well. And we're going to try and demystify the process of school finance for all of you. Elizabeth is a veteran finance person with our diocese. She has 18 years with the Catholic Diocese of Richmond. She has worked at OLPH in Salem. She has been up at St. Mary's in Blacksburg, and she's been here at Roanoke Catholic for a number of years in a couple of different roles. Of course, most recently as our Director of Finance. Two of the things I wanted to talk about with you and with Elizabeth is really how does Roanoke Catholic charge tuition, and what's the difference between the tuition we charge and collect versus what it really costs to educate? Because I think a lot of people assume that, the tuition that you pay covers all the bills, and that, that takes care of everything. And that's really not the case. And it's not just at Roanoke Catholic School, that's the case in all of our Catholic schools. So I guess my first question, Elizabeth, first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to have you. My first question is, why don't schools charge the actual cost to attend?
I think the main reason for that is, as a Catholic school, as a Catholic institution, we want to make tuition as affordable as possible for the most families. It is an expensive choice that you're making to send your children to Catholic school, but it is such a valuable choice. And the more affordable that we can make it, the more likely you are to be able to make that choice.
That's so true. And can you give us an idea on average of what we charge for tuition versus what our cost to educate might look like, and why we call it cost to educate versus tuition?
Sure. The cost to educate would include all of the expenses of the budget, of the operating budget. So that would include paying your teachers and the other HR expenses that are out there, the utilities, the cost of maintaining the buildings, everything is included in the cost to educate a child. So as a Catholic institution, we don't get government assistance the way public schools do. So we have to somehow manage to cover all of those expenses. Just as an example, last year it would have cost about $12,000 a piece for every child to be able to cover the cost of education with tuition only. And we have a sliding scale of a tuition that starts with the lowest amount for preschool and the highest cost is for seniors. And our tuition last year, the highest cost was, well, it started at $8,995 and the highest cost was about $10,740. So definitely underneath of the $12,000 per child. And it's been like that for as far back as I can look into the records. The cost to educate has always been just slightly higher or right at the highest level that we charge, and then it went down as you go down in grade. So the way that we're able to do that is through the generosity of our alumni, of donors, grants that our people try very hard to get. So that allows us to charge less money for tuition since we have other monies we can use to help cover the bottom line.
And I'll be honest, I think a lot of the goal for us as a leadership team is to figure out a way to kind of wean ourselves off of needing development dollars to balance the budget. I mean, the truth is, in a perfect model, all the money that comes in for development could be used for capital needs or financial aid needs down the road, and you'd be paying all your bills just based on what you have coming in. But as Elizabeth said, those costs would be insurmountable for a number of our families. And when so many of our families have multiple children at school, to see a $3,000 to $4,000 increase per kid times 3 or 4 kids, that might make a Roanoke Catholic education completely unaffordable. Our goal is to fill our classes. Our goal is to have every child that starts with us in the pre-K or the EL programs come all the way through and graduate. And certainly having good leadership in the finance department and having great insight from our board and great oversight from our diocese is all very helpful. That brings me to my next question, which is, because of your experiences in parishes and now schools, what type of oversight is there for our parishes and our schools in terms of financial acumen, expectations, reporting structures, those kind of things? Are you just free to do whatever you want as a finance director, or am I as a principal from a finance perspective?
Absolutely not. There's always been oversight from the Office of Finance and Human Resources and schools from the diocese. For example, Bob Boyle is the auditor at the diocese, and so he will look over all of our financial aid decisions to make sure that they are all in line with the requirements. He looks over our month-end closing, he looks over our annual closings, and he will come back with questions that sometimes I have to look up the words to make sure I understand what he's asking for. He is very thorough, very good. He reports to Sarah Raven, who also overlooks all of our finances, and they also give us guidance on how to do what we need to do, how to code what we need to code. They are very, very hands-on with our finances, and they're getting even more so as we go along. It's wonderful because you have their assistance. It's also a little nerve-wracking because they're always looking over your shoulder at what you're doing. But it's a good structure to have. So we definitely have oversight, and we always have had oversight from the diocese.
And we provide them a preliminary budget, and then we provide them a finalized budget. How much do things change for schools or parishes between preliminary budgets that are submitted and then the final budget that's actually sent in?
Quite a bit, actually, because the initial budget is sent in so early that a lot of times we don't even have our staffing needs fulfilled yet. So there can be a lot of changes between there. So when I prepare the initial preliminary budget and send it in, I'm working on the budget pretty much continuously until that final budget is due, because every major change that we make is going to change the budget. So we don't want to wait and then be surprised when we go to do the final budget that suddenly we don't have enough money to cover what we need. So we rework it all the time between the preliminary budget and the final budget.
And also, we have a wonderful school board that helps direct a lot of our financial decisions. Certainly, any kind of acquiring of real estate, land, all of that stuff has to initially be supported by our local school board, and then has to go up to the diocese for their support. And there's quite a process for all of those things too. Can you think of anything from a finance perspective that's kind of on the horizon for the school that would be like an immediate need? I mean, as you look at things down the road, are there things from a finance perspective you think we need to focus on?
Oh, there's quite a few. You've mentioned the athletic fields quite often. That's something that's very important because it's getting harder and harder to find places to rent, and it's expensive to rent fields. So having our own fields would save us money for the long term. I know that we've been doing a lot of improvements to the building lately, but you always have to look for the aging of the HVAC equipment, the aging of the main structures of the school. So there's always that to look out for.
So really, just like you have to look at your own home and your own HVAC systems and the upgrade and the new roof and those kind of things, we have those same challenges here at Roanoke Catholic, but we are very good stewards of the money that you pay in tuition, and we want you to know that our doors are always open to you. We want to demystify that whole financial process. We want to demystify the curriculum process, and we really want you to feel like you're connected not only to us as a leadership team, but directly to our faculty. So in future segments of Happenings on the Hill, we'll have our enrollment dean here. We'll also have our associate head of school join us and our dean of faculty join us to answer questions that they have specialty and control over. And I thank you so much for joining us. And Elizabeth, thanks for carving out time to be here today. We'll see you guys next month. Have a great month of February. Stay warm and look for that spring weather soon. God bless.